Ooh, I'm Super Tarot, and today we are talking about what's happening this week. I think it's a fantastic idea to regularly check in with yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing daily, weekly, monthly tarot reads. They're all valid, but there is something awesome about doing a weekly one because it's enough space to allow there to be sort of change and being able to see how one day affects the other. And, if we know about this, how can we change that? I mean, it's always valid in every case, but you know what I mean. But it also gives enough space to sometimes when it comes to tarot, you need to kind of give your brain a second to sort of breathe and let things happen and then evaluate. You know what I mean? But I say that, and you can really pull out tarot and ask a million questions a day, and I'm very pro that too. So you know what I'm saying. In addition to that, I wanted to let you guys know you are welcome to tip or donate. It is very appreciated. But if you're interested, you can, if you would like to support this channel, you can do it through Patreon, where you also get exclusive content in return. As you know, we have a wide variety of things there. We pull polls, we answer specific questions. I actually have an enormous amount of videos coming out in the next couple days with a couple other tarot videos, so that's going to be exciting. You should sign up now to enjoy that. In today's particular video, at the same time that this is posting, I am simultaneously posting my part 2 on Lumeria. We went into extensive detail about, the way it functioned and stuff like that, and the interactions of the people and their history in part 1. So we go deeper into sort of I don't want to give too much away, but where it went, so to speak, in part 2. Then I did a channeled angel message, which, let's just say, I was very surprised how it went and where they went with it. And then last but not least, I actually talk about the origin of spirit guides. This is something, this is not too much of a spoiler, but I have actually had the good fortune to not only been shown this information a very long time ago, many years ago, but I got to experience it, I'm putting quotes around this, firsthand. Basically, I was shown it through sort of I was one, if that makes sense. I got to see it from their field of vision, is the best way I can explain it. And it's not at all what you think it's going to be, and it's really fun and interesting, and I think it definitely gives a different perspective on spirit guides as a whole, and I think it definitely helps, it gives that much more comfort of they know what they're doing, and they get us, if that makes sense. So anyways, if you're interested in any of that, that's there. I also have my courses if you want to learn to do tarot or spirit traveling or better learn to meditate, all those good things I use every day and use here. You can find all that information in the description below. So I love you guys so much. Let's get into this. We've got 3 groups in front of us. I want you to just kind of take a moment, almost see yourself right now starting your week, and you're going to hold on to that. And as you hold on to that, take a second, breathe in, breathe out, and then pick the group that resonates with you. And I'm going to give you a moment to do just that. Awesome. I could really feel energetically, you guys, you were very consciously, psychically using your abilities when choosing cards. So yay, good for you guys. I love you guys so much. Now that you have your groups 1, 2, and 3, you picked whichever one works for you, you can go down in the description to skip to that designated group. And let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1. Let's find out what's going to happen to you this week. And can I say before we get into the cards, you're going to have a fantastic week, because we're all about positive, self-fulfilling prophecies. And so that's the attitude no matter what. So our first card we've got going on here is the 5 of Wands in reverse. Then we have the Judgment card upright. Then we have the 9 of Cups in reverse. 6 of Swords in reverse, an Eight of Swords in reverse. Before I even look at any details and consult my spirit guides, I want to point out something that sticks out to me right away. So in the Judgment card, when I read the cards, it's very like each card reading is its own thing, and I'm taking on many factors of both the cards' meanings, what I'm picking up and pulling energetically, and what I usually see like visions and things like that, and then simultaneously consulting and whatever additional information my spirit guides want to add to it. And normally when I get the Judgment card, again, not because it's the Judgment card, but many a times it does have to do with some form of like proving yourself, showing, like feeling tested by the universe, that type of thing. So it can feel kind of frustrating for people. It doesn't have to be, but it can feel that way. And I'm just not picking up that energy at all, which is really interesting. So I'm curious about what's going on there. I also am my spirit guides are like heavily being like, we want to talk to you about this one. So I'm excited to look into it. So just give me one moment to talk to them and look at all the details. Okay. This is so fascinating. So first, we're going to actually read this in chronological order, but we're going to start with this card and watch it transform. It's important you pay attention to this card, and I hope it changes the way you view time, how you react or interact with information can change things, and how things are not permanent in a good way and can be altered. So first we're going to start with the Six of Swords, and this does talk about later on in the week, so we're talking about like 3/4 of the way through the week. There's this feeling of, I want to go back. Like, it's like everyone's saying, hey, tomorrow's going to be Saturday, and you're like, nope. I want to go back to Monday. I want to like relook at things. I want to go back to that feeling, and almost trying to stop what is just naturally going to happen and we're not talking about events, but more of an emotional feeling. You don't like the emotions you're feeling in that moment, and you'd like to go back to the beginning. Now, watch this card change as we go further into this information. So first we have the Five of Wands in reverse, which is fantastic. There is this relief of something that has been bothering you for a long time. We're talking about that feeling of like, when you try to relax and you just cannot, and everyone's like, oh, just relax, just calm down, just take a moment or whatever. And you're like, I'm trying, and there's just an unspoken conceptual energy picking at me, making me feel like I can't rest, that type of thing. But this also feels very emotional, like something's bothered you for a long time and you've been trying to let it go, trying to work through it. And this is in the very beginning of the week. It's awesome. You feel that way. There's just this emotional relief, and that's wonderful. Now, part of that emotional relief has a little bit of surrounding evidence around it, where you get a lot of little things working out in your favor or like beneficial, kind of like maybe you go and pick up somebody else's coffee, and then when you're there, the barista's like, hey, we made an extra one. Do you want this? And you're like, sure. And you get a free cup of coffee. Or you're trying to make a project work out at work, and maybe normally you get a more push or pushback, or maybe you are expecting to get rejected, and for whatever reason, they're more open to it and you weren't anticipating that, and it gets approved and it works out in your favor more seamlessly than you're used to. So lots of like little things like that, right? And just some food for thought is when people are focusing on manifesting, they tend to be very focused with the end result. Did it happen? Did it not happen? But the thing is, we are at all times manifesting. Like at all times, whatever you're doing, you're creating something. And something to maybe reevaluate the way you're interacting both with intentional manifestations, but also just your day-to-day life is, I've been talking about this with my spirit guides. They say that manifestations are the acknowledgement that you have accepted the idea. So you manifest the idea, You either accept it or you don't accept it, because the not accepting could be like a blockage or karma you're trying to work out or something like that. But you accept it, and then it appearing in the physical realm is the universe saying like, we're acknowledging that we see you have accepted that idea. And that's where people tend to run into the issue. Like if you're so locked on it existing in the physical world, it can't show up because you're not acknowledging it in the non-physical. Does this translate? You see what I'm saying? So anyways, this is that evidence around you is sort of the acknowledgement that you have to a certain level been like, oh, okay, wow, I can feel that I'm more relieved. But the thing is, while you do feel this mass sense of relief, understandably, because this has been an issue ongoing for some time now, there is definitely a fear it will happen again, a distrust. You're sort of, reeling from that experience of having been bothered by it for so long, that's then when we get the judgment card. So it is going to feel like initially, maybe the first day or two, just a general sense of like, relief, and I feel great, and all these positive things happening to you. And then there's going to be suddenly this awareness that you are relaxed, and you're going to start to feel a bit defensive of your surroundings. And if something, and we're talking like the slightest thing goes wrong, and we're not saying things are going to go wrong, we're just talking about example. Again, back to the cup of coffee concept. You go to pick it up and they made it wrong, and you just don't have time to go back. And you're thinking, the other day I got it for free. Am I off? Is something wrong? And you're like in your head about that concept. That is when you start to think like, what does it mean? Am I being tested? That kind of this sense of like defensiveness over the slightest thing not being perfect kind of thing is again only coming from the emotional, like you're in the process of trying to fully accept the long-term relief. Like it's really over. You're not just relieved that it's over, you're accepting that it's fully over. Now the good thing is, and this is what I meant by I didn't feel that energy behind it, is you're not being tested. If this is a good time to acknowledge when you feel that way, you have to just relax, take a breath, and say, if something's not going right, that doesn't mean it's going wrong. And it isn't a sign that I'm doing anything. I just need to take a moment. It's showing me I'm sensitive. It's showing me I need to take a moment and like meditate for 10 minutes and reassure myself that everything's okay. That maybe something quote unquote not going the way you thought it was is diverting you towards a better path. It has nothing to do with anything negative, anything being out of balance in the slightest possible way. So that's just something to reassure yourself. Nothing's happening, but there is a general sensitivity. Now, that sensitivity can potentially progress. This is when we have the Nine of Cups in reverse. So because it's hard, and this is understandable. Now, I'm not saying it's hard for you. I'm just saying it's understandable. For most people who have been through something for a time, finally feel relief, and they're starting to just try to trust that everything's okay. It's hard to ask somebody, or it's hard for that person sometimes to just immediately be like, yes, I hear you're saying everything's all right, but it's going to take me, a couple days to process it. So you're reassuring yourself, hey, everything's all right. We're just being sensitive right now. Let me give myself what I need to feel better, but no one's against you. And that process is still continuing on when we have the Nine of Cups the midweek. In that midweek, you notice like a complete halt to all these positive things. Now, I'm not saying anything negative happens, nothing at all. Consider it a neutral place you're more in. And that halt is more of a sign of not just that sort of tension, it's more of an actual result of you putting too much pressure on your outside experience reflecting something internal. So anything good or positive, you're really up in arms about it and you're trying to reassure yourself, but there's a part of you that in your process of processing that everything's okay, you're starting to get into this almost aggressive attitude of being like, I deserve good things. Where are they? It was working out before. I'm being punished again. What's happening? And keep in mind that's not real. That's not how the universe works. Everything's okay. Everything's more of like a message and a sign, and it's not a criticism. But because there is this hyper awareness, this holding on, too much pressure towards it, too much pressure on yourself, that's when you're noticing everything halt. So as much as it's confirmation that things are flowing, it's confirmation that you're keeping yourself at a standstill again in a different kind of way. Now again, we're not saying this is like a bad week and bad things are happening. You're just processing things and trying to come to terms and shift with it, and that's okay. Now the beautiful thing is, remember when we talked about you wanting to go back to the beginning? That makes sense, right? Now that you know about that, but guess what? This card now has transformed because we've discussed this information. So now that you're aware of this information, this card takes on a new meaning. In the Six of Swords in reverse, this actually talks about you finally letting go. You're aware that there is a part of you that is still tense because while you are processing that everything is okay and you're like accepting that and navigating that new space, there's a part of you now that the tension is finally gone that you realize you don't actually like how things are. The best way I can explain this idea is, imagine you have a job, right? And that job has just a terrible boss. And they're really just making the environment not great, making you do tedious tasks. It's not the vibe. Now they finally leave, right? And you feel that sense of relief. Oh, they're gone. But you're kind of overwhelmed by everything you went through. You're needing to accept that. That's when we get this emotional reaction. But then there's a part of you that finally goes, okay, you know what? I'm letting it all go. I'm accepting that like everything's good now, my job. But you have this awakening that you don't really like your job, that in fact you'd actually like to proceed to do something different, approach things either in a totally different way, approach a new career, whatever that is. But there's this epiphany. Now, I am very strongly pulled to this energy that it's almost like somebody who was very hyper aware of time slots and calendar dates. And there's just something in your brain that woke up and went, wait a minute, I have free will and I can do anything I want. And you just want to approach the day totally different. Normally maybe you would go home after work, eat dinner, watch some shows and go to bed. And you suddenly catch yourself, no matter how tired you are at the end of the day. And you're like, you know what? I'm actually going to stay out late and I'm going to go thrifting. I'm feeling like I'm just going to spontaneously thrift on a Tuesday from 6 to 10 at night. And I'm just going to go do it. And I can just do whatever I want. Or maybe you same thing. It's a Wednesday and you go, you know what? I think I'm just going to go on a roller coaster. I'm just going to go to a theme park. It's open. It's going to be open for a few more hours. I can make it. Let me just go do that. And it's very much that vibe. And then that's how we finish out the week beautifully in the Eight of Swords in reverse. There is this immense weight lifted off your shoulders and reconfiguring about how you're approaching things. So you not only finally feel the full effect, you processed everything as we talked about here in the Five of Wands, and you feel really great. But you also have a deeper understanding of what you really wanted, and you are actively starting at the very end of the week progressing towards that. And again, the really important, intense energy I'm feeling about this overall is this feeling where you totally change your schedule, and the schedule is a voluntary choice by you, and it's very much like, oh wait, I can just do whatever I want type of feeling, and you having fun in life and reconnecting with what is it that you are and what you want. And I get this also very intense feeling that there's a part of you deep underneath it all. You know what you're about, you know what you want, you know what gives you happiness, and you just haven't allowed yourself to experience it or express it. And you really are like, you know what? Nope, that's my main priority now. And that gives that extra next deep level of now I feel great. So like I said, self-fulfilling prophecy, a great week overall. A lot of understanding, a lot of empowerment, a lot of non-judgmental processing, and then overall just this huge transformation of basically how you're approaching your daily life. And I love that for you. So please leave a like, comment, all that good jazz. I will see you next one. I love you so much, and let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2, let's find out what's going to happen this week by looking at the cards. And before we get into this, I want to say you're going to have a fantastic week because we're all about positive self-fulfilling prophecies here. So let's get into this. We've got the Ace of Wands upright. I'm already seeing visions for that. Wheel of Fortune in reverse. The High Priestess upright. Five of Cups upright. And the Chariot upright. Give me one moment to look at everything and to consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in one moment. Okay. Let me just ask one more thing. Okay. I'm excited for you. So first we got the Ace of Wands upright. Now, in this particular setting, I'm sorry for that interruption. I saw something moving in the reflection of my computer monitor, and I was like, what is that? And then it was just my cat. So anyways, back to what we were doing. So first off, we're going to start with the Ace of Wands upright, which is about a new energy you're starting the week with. Now, this is awesome and fun and fantastic. I love this so much because this is that feeling where you randomly go from not feeling like you can do anything to suddenly you're like, you know what, I'm going to clean my house. I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling that burst of, I can do this. I want to do this. Now, the main thing my spirit guide was saying to me that energetically is popping up around this new energy is repairing and restoring things. And it's a feeling of like something you've been putting off for a while, and in the background of your mind, if you have like a checklist of things you want to accomplish, you're like, at some point I want to do this thing. You know, I want to resand and restain this like coffee table I got, or something like that. You know what I mean? But it's this feeling of repair and restore something, and you've been putting it off for a while. So you're motivated, you're pumped, you're getting started. Now, with that energy, being cultivated in the sense of determination and certainty behind it, this is when, as the week progresses, because this is being read chronologically as the week, then we get the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, which is awesome. So it's all about releasing karma for you. Now, the really cool thing when it comes to karma is that it can be released in so many different ways. One of the major ways I personally suggest is through just doing it directly. Go to the spirit realm, look into, hey, what's affecting me? It could be anything from a past life to something you've just been putting off for a while that can be discussed. And it could be crossed over, it could be just faced head on, but whatever it is, whether it's done through just speaking or psychic exercises and metaphors and stuff like that, however it's accomplished, you can really speed up the act of clearing out karma instead of waiting for it to randomly kind of show itself in your life and you just deal with it then. The other way is it randomly showing up, and that's for you. And this is going to be at this point in the week, so it's pretty early on, but we're maybe 2 days into the week. You're going to be faced with some decisions needing to be made. They do feel like somewhat difficult decisions. I don't want to say horribly inconvenient, uncomfortable, not that type of vibe, but there is this sense of you being given an option and you making very clear, decisive, confident, no, I'm not doing that. You know what? I've decided I'm not going to take on that project. It's very much that energy. So initially, it doesn't feel exciting to hear about. That's not what you exactly want. But because you are being very clear with how you're interacting with it, and you're interacting with in a way that is positively beneficial towards your worth, your boundaries, your certainty of yourself, and reinforcing that, that is then how, through your actions, the karma is gets released. Something to consider going forward in your life. It's kind of like when people keep going back to bad relationships over and over and over again until they make that clear-cut decision that that is not the experience they want to have and what they want. I'm so sorry if you can hear this. My cat's playing in a box. Whatever you're doing with that kind of thing, until you make that clear decision, it's sort of like the karma keeps popping up because it's saying, you have to deal with me. I'm going to just keep being there until you release me. And that's essentially what you do. So you're like vibing, you're really into your project, you're really motivated. You suddenly get put in a position where you have to answer some like decisions, and you make them like confidently, you're certain, you're not backing down. It's very like no is a complete sentence type of vibe, and you release karma. I do want to mention that when we release karma, it becomes a massive and the whole point of discussing this, and you're like, why would I care about that? Is because you essentially open up these pathways. So if you feel like your life was sort of stuck for a time, guess what? It's going to be the opposite now. And I actually have confirmation on that. We're going to get to that. Now, midway through the week, you actually end up meeting with someone. I am told that you are not related to them, it's a meetup in person type of thing, and you're going to be gaining a really good amount of advice. And this is really interesting because the advice is not about things that are of direct concern to you. So like, for example, let's say you're trying to figure out like, what do I want to do next in life? Do I want to focus more on my career? Do I want to do something where I travel and I fulfill something, spiritually in that kind of way? And then their whole thing is they would be meeting with you and maybe just discussing, like they're your boss and they're just discussing, like, what do you want to do next at work type of thing? And they're just talking with you. Maybe it's like one of those, like, sometimes people have like 6-month evaluation type things. And, they don't seem in any way antagonistic towards you, but they're very like stern, like they're just very matter of fact. So again, nothing negative towards you, just very like point blank and asking you questions. And in their general advice and suggestions, you end up, like I said, they're not directly answering the things that you're looking for advice for, but it still does actually help you. It's like they answer something else, but you feel it perfectly coincides with something else you're thinking about. So that's fantastic. There's a sense of like, yeah, I've never thought about it that way. And a sense of like, again, getting answers you're looking for in a different way than you realized you could receive it. Again, another way to reevaluate how you're interacting with people. Because guess what? The universe isn't always direct. Sometimes it can be very metaphorical and direct. A lot of the time. Now, 3/4 of the way of the week, I do see some form of loss. Enough of a loss that it kind of makes you really pause. And, you have this moment where you're like, am I going to cry or am I not going to cry? Now, this is really important, though. I want to point this out. While that isn't, exactly what anyone wants to hear, here's the important thing. Here's the sort of make or break, the defining moment for you. While it is a loss and it does make you pause and, you're about to have your reaction, so to speak, there's this moment where you stop and you go, am I upset about this, or did I just get relieved of a burden I no longer have to deal with? So like, for example, I'm really trying to think of one. Okay, this one's going to sound, okay, I want to be clear. Like, I obviously have a cat. I'm very pro animals. But let's say you're in a position where somebody else takes ownership of your pet and you're like, obviously, initially devastated. Again, I'm just trying to pick up a metaphor off the top of my head here. And that's obviously devastating. And that makes you pause. But then you think, hey, but now I can travel and go do what I want to do and know that the being that I love is, totally safe and happy and living their best life. And you never know. You could come back from your travels and be like, you give me back my pet. You know what I mean? You can do that. Keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be through negativity. It could just be like because of the situation or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe you can't afford to give it, what it needs at that moment type of thing. So that's very much sort of the vibe we're talking about here. You take a moment where you pause and then you say like, how am I going to react to this? And you realize sort of the benefits of it. And then this is then when we get this really positive ending in the Chariot at the very end of the week. This is a strong feeling of absolute confidence, certainty. You really are crystal clear of what you want, who you are, and this is the big one. There is an enormous amount of momentum behind you, like you start to really all of a sudden find yourself flying in progression. And this is important about the momentum. The momentum is from this sense of motivation inside you that has been inspired from the beginning of the week. It's like this unspoken feeling, not because you're like, well, of course I have to move forward. I got this new job. Of course I have to move forward. I'm forced to. It's not like that. It's like you could be standing still and you feel like you're where it's at and you can feel yourself moving into the next moment. It's very much this exciting energy where you feel like the main character. You feel like maybe potentially, as we talked about over here, your life felt very stuck and suddenly you're like, I've got places to be, people to meet. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I can feel it's going to be something next. And you're excited and certain, and there's a sense of like assumption, like what's going to happen type of thing. And you're ready for it, essentially. So a bit of a wild week overall. But overall, there's a sense of like you being unbothered and you feeling like whenever something comes in, it's just reassuring that you totally know what you're doing and what you're doing. It's sort of like you woke up from being asleep for a long time is the best way I can explain it. So I love this for you. I love your week. I'm excited for you. I'll see you in the next one. Please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Love you so much. See you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out what's happening this week by looking at the cards. And before we get into it, I just want to say you're going to have a fantastic week because we're all about positive, self-fulfilling prophecies here on this channel. So let's look at your cards. We've got the Hierophant in reverse. Do you say font or font? Font. Hierophant or Hierophant? Please let me know. 4 of Swords in reverse. 5 of Swords in reverse. 10 of Swords in reverse. Wow, look at these swords. And the Hermit. Wow, this is a very in your head type of week. Okay, give me a second to just look at all the details. The energy is kind of wild around this one, and consult my spirit guides and I'll be with you in a moment. Okay, let's get into this. So this is kind of a really interesting week with a really happy ending. So first we start off in an unconventional way for sure. This card often represents the idea of an unconventional method of learning. But in this way, it's more just, I'm not used to this popping up in the reading, which is there is this adversity to taking on any new information. That's how my spirit guide put it to me. Now it could happen at work, like if you're learning how to, operate something new or a new method. It can be, your personal studies. You're just like, oh, I don't want to do this. I just like my brain cannot take in the information. I don't want to take on any information. But my spirit guide said it mostly happens at home. And it's a lot of like small things. Like you buy something new, like a new vacuum, and you need to read the instructions for it. And you're just like, I don't want to. I can't be bothered with it. And there's a deep sense of frustration, and I'd say mind fog or brain fog, but It doesn't feel like that. It's like there's like a version of you just actively like hearing anything new in this way and then pushing it away and just feeling like complete brain shut off and active disinterest intentionally. Now, that's fine. My spirit guide said that you want to really try to see if other people can help you in this beginning part of the week accomplish this task. Maybe you have a friend or a partner and you explain to them where you're at and then you just need some extra help and if they could do it, or if you can pay to have somebody else do it for you. That would be a really good idea because that's where you're at and that's the kind of help you need and that's totally fine. Now the thing though is, while in the beginning it's just a sense of general disinterest in just taking on new information, there starts to be kind of a it's like your head's just not in a good space to make decisions in general is where it shifts, because we're reading chronologically in the week, so 2 days later you're starting to not make the best decisions. Now, I don't want to, freak you out, so take what I'm saying with a certain level of grain of salt, but also, pay attention to this. In the Four of Swords in reverse, we can see you putting yourself in active danger. So it's not just like you're somewhere and it's just like wrong place, wrong time. It's like you're making decisions that are actively putting you in these situations that you could at any point make a different decision. Now, the best way my spirit guide said is that you really want to, during this time period, consult people on your decisions. So like a good example is like, let's say you were going to go trade off furniture with someone. Someone was going to buy a piece of furniture from you, right? And you went online and you're going to go meet up about it. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to their house and do it. And like, you would never normally do this, but for some reason you're like, yeah, sure. And like your friend is like, what? No, don't do that. Like go somewhere, like a parking lot or something like that. That would be like a good time to like consult your friends around that time of the week and just be like, what do you think if I did this? What do you think if I did that kind of thing? Now, you'll be in the clear and you'll be okay. You ask for protection and all that good jazz. Like everything's going to be okay. Just definitely get a second opinion during that time because you're just definitely like going from somebody who's just a little bit resistant to some interactions because, that's just the headspace you're in, to kind of just feeling generally internally confused. And then this is when we get midway through the week of the Five of Swords in reverse. Now you're going to notice you'll go from having all this support and people being pretty willing to help you and give you advice and listen to you, to all of a sudden it becomes like a dead stop and you feel this it feels like a personal attack, but it feels like people just don't want to actively play with you. That's how my spirit guide put it. They don't want to actively play with you. Now, the good news is, I want to be clear, while it might feel that way and feel very personal and you maybe see them hanging out with other people, it is not because they are sick of you or it's a personal thing. This is sort of a universe working itself out type of thing. And what I mean by that statement is sometimes we get put into positions that if we didn't have context, it would seem like something else, but in fact, it is helping something else happen. And in this particular case, it is helping isolate you. Because while in the beginning of the week, you totally needed that support and you got it when you needed it, you're going to hit a point where you're just so kind of internally topsy-turvy, not because of these other people's aid, but just like that's kind of where the energy was going, and you just need a moment to reevaluate and get your kind of head on straight. But you weren't going to do that because you were more focused on interacting with other people. And unaware to you, the Five of Swords often represents this feeling of competitiveness. And it's not so much that I feel that direct kind of concept around you. It's more like if you are a competitive person, you are actively reaching out. You're being proactive about wanting to interact with people and have this experience, and you want to actively win. There's a lot of consciousness. There is this feeling like the way you're potentially going to interact with people midway through the week and decide things, so on and so forth, you feel that like you're not in a good headspace. Maybe you'll be snippier or kind of bringing out a part of yourself that you're like, that's not me, but you can't help help it. It's like you're seeking it out in the moment type of thing. Or it doesn't always have to be an unpleasant thing, but you're definitely seeking it out. And it's like the universe went, I got you, girl. I'm not gonna let you put yourself in a position where you end up regretting maybe some of the ways you interacted, or having an internal part of yourself that's like, oh, that wasn't me. Who am I? Like, what am I going through right now? And you can instead just focus on reconnecting to who are you? And we're not talking about like a big life crisis. It might feel that way in the morning. It's just more like you're having like an off moment and week. You know what I mean? So it's nothing big. It's just a temporary kind of moment. Now, the beautiful thing is, and I know this doesn't sound beautiful, but it is, once that midweek happens and you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's, pulling away, and it first feels personal and sensitive. I promise you it's not your good. It's just the universe helping you out, helping you self-isolate. You start to acclimate to this, and you're taking that moment to be alone. You're getting to know yourself. It really helps you 3/4 of the week have this moment where you're like, you know what, this person, it feels important. For some people, it's like a friend. For some people, it's maybe a romantic partner that you've been talking to for a period of time. Oh, my spirit guide's chiming in. Hold on. Oh, my spirit guide said for a lot of you, it's a coworker friend. Okay, good to know. But there's this realization that you're not supposed to talk to them anymore. That's what it feels like. It's like, I don't think this is working out. I don't feel like I'm getting back what I want out of this experience. And it goes from something that kind of, and again, we're not talking about like it was deeply affecting you. It's sort of like it was light and indecisive and it wasn't truly affecting you. And suddenly out of nowhere, you're just suddenly aware of what that means to you. And you make an internal decision to be like, I'm not going to talk to them anymore. And that feeling of cutting off. It doesn't feel strong. It's sort of like a silent decision you make with yourself. And when you make that silent decision, you just, they just don't hear from you anymore and you're not responding and that type of thing. So it's very much very relaxed, very chill type of energy, but it is a decision within you make. And that is a pivotal point for you. It's like something changes, a combination of you making peace with you having a bit of an alone time period, mixed with you're no longer trying to focus on how you're going to interact with people, so that you're not trying to like entertain other people. You're not thinking about what's your response. So it forces you to just be self-reflective, and then you realize something. You make a clear decision. It's your first certain, clear-cut, focused, direct type of thinking and motivation and decision making you've made. And as we began, that wasn't really where you were at, and you kind of feel motivated by it. And then the beautiful thing is then we end the week with the Hermit card. And I love this for you because essentially in the Hermit card is you're still isolated, but this time you're excited about it. And it's more like you are super wise. You know what you're doing. You know who you are. There's a lot of enjoyable self-reflection. And it's not so much self-reflection on like another thing to, heal type of thing. It's more just like you're enjoying your own company, who you are. You feel like you've got your flow and confidence again. And you just feel like basically like, like a magical witch, like living in the woods vibing kind of thing. That's like basically how it feels. It's very positive. It's very empowered. And you just feel like everything kind of comes together and your week goes from kind of sorting things out, a little muddled, to just a deep sense of reconnection, understanding, and wisdom, and certainty, and happiness, and you're vibing, essentially. Now, I do want to keep in mind, we are not trying to look too far into the future because we're just looking week by week here, but keep in mind, we're not talking about you're entering a huge self-isolation period from all your friends and type of thing. That kind of thing is, we'll see that as like we look at another week's, reading kind of thing. But keep in mind, it's something that can, we saw the progression of this week. One thing can just last one day, one thing can last another day and a half, another thing can last 3 days. These are just little sections of you kind of bouncing day to day. You know what I mean? But I love that things work out for you, and I hope this helps you reevaluate your sort of interactions with people and understand when you need help. And sometimes when people pull away, it's not personal, and understanding that sometimes making certain decisions in our life really puts us on this great forward momentum in other parts of it. It's sort of like we're saying to the universe, I can make this clear decision, I'm ready to. And then the universe goes, I see that, and I see that you're ready for more enjoyable decisions to be made. So I love that for you. It's very awesome, totally tailspin around, and I hope you enjoy all the extra stuff that both me and my spirit guides were sharing with you that can make this process a lot more comfortable and give you the, aid and assistance you need at that time. So you can just, it can go a lot more smoothly. So I love this for you. I hope you enjoy this. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. I love you so much. Goodbye.